This is the briefing for Monday, July 15th. Well, I am back from a week off, which was much needed, more needed than I really thought that by the time I left. But anyway, I'm back in the saddle again. It is very interesting. Some of my trader friends have jokingly said that there is a Joe indicator that when I leave the office or I'm traveling or outside of being able to do anything in the markets, that the markets usually make a big move. And certainly they made a very interesting move last week, I should say. So it's going to be interesting now to see the resolution of this. There's some divergences that are intact, and I guess Chairman Powell made some comments that spurred the market higher, I guess, on possible reduction in interest rates. But anyway, what was interesting enough was this is today's trading, the S&P, the SPY. This was Friday's trading. So you can see the rally that we got on Friday. But if you look at this here, you see the high that we got today. You can see the divergence in NYSE breadth. But look at the Qs. This was the Qs on the 10th, which was Wednesday, and this is the spiders on Wednesday. So you can see that the spiders made a high on Wednesday and then made a newer high in today's trading, and the Qs or the NASDAQ did not follow along. In fact, the NASDAQ had a pretty significant sell-off on Thursday, as you can see here. Now we've retraced some of that, but then of course we've got a reversal candle here in today's trading, and we traded lower. It looked like it was going lower into the close, but buyers stepped in and drove price back up. The real impetus here, though, was in the Russell. The Russell, and I'll get to the longer term charts in just a minute, but the Russell just really exploded last week, which was very, very interesting to see because it had been lagging for months, if not over a year long. So the Russell has just really exploded higher, which tells me potentially that there's some money coming out of the NASDAQ and potentially going into the small caps. And that very well could be the reason. Now you can see that even on this rally here in the Qs, you can see volume was falling off in that rally. We had volume on this day and the following day that was increasing pretty dramatically in terms of the Qs to the downside. So it looks like money came out of the NASDAQ and potentially it went into the Russell. You can see we did get a spike in volume there. We had a couple good spikes in volume as well. We get these gaps up in the Russell, and then a pause, a gap up, a pause, a gap and move up, and then another pause. And those pauses typically are on lower volume. So the resolution of this intermarket divergence between the indices is going to be interesting to see how that's resolved. Now, looking at the spiders from a longer term basis, you can see the divergence we had in today's trading in terms of market breadth. We had a higher high above, I guess, the last 3 days of last week, and you can see that breadth was declining pretty significantly. We did get a spike in 52-week highs minus 52-week lows. This is a pretty strong reading. Really haven't seen that really until going back all the way till March of this year. So that's positive. So we do have some positive internals for the market. In terms of the Qs, let me go back to the spiders. I've kind of marked this 557 area in the spiders. You can see this rotation right through here for 3 days of trading, and then we got a little bit of a breakout in today's trading, but then retraced back through that upper extreme. If it breaks through that, I'm going to be looking seriously at what might be happening, because then we would get potentially a test of the 550 area, and then below that would be 540. So those are your support areas in the spiders. In the Qs, looking at 487 as being initial support. Now that could probably go up to about the 490 area, but really I'd like to see this low get taken out, but then I'd want to see that high get taken out, assuming we're going to see some type of rotation back to the downside. Now, if this low holds, then potentially we're going to see the NASDAQ catch up with the other indices, and we'll see a rotation back up to the upside and see this is, I guess, Thursday's high. We'll see that taken out as well. In terms of the Russell, this is really very interesting. You can see this rotational pattern it's been in for quite some time. Another rotational pattern, a shorter degree time frame. And then, of course, on Wednesday, we got this breakout. Thursday, this is Thursday's trading. We got this breakout outside of this area of rotation. Then we broke out through this area of rotation, follow through on Friday, and then additional follow through in today's trading. A little bit of a divergence in volume and in market breadth. I want to change the time frame in this because I think this is significant. This is going back. This high was made back in April of 2022, so that was almost 2 years ago. And you can see the Russell has really gone nowhere. And then, of course, we started this rotation in a shorter time frame in December of 2023, and you can see the rotational pattern here. This was a significant breakout in terms of price development. Volume not extremely so, but breadth expanded nicely. And what was interesting was this, and going back to the NASDAQ, is on this day here on the Qs, look where breadth was on the NASDAQ. It was 2,100 shares positive. I remember I came in and fired up my laptop and was looking at the markets, and I really could not understand why the NASDAQ was selling off. After thinking about it for a while, it had to be some of the higher weighted stocks were being liquidated, and potentially that money was being moved over into the Russell. That's the only thing I can think about this, because the NASDAQ had a strong internal day, even though we saw some significant sell-off on that day's trading. In terms of overbought and oversold, we did reach a point last week of being extremely overbought. Worked off some of that in today's trading over the last 2 days of trading. Same thing with the NASDAQ. It's still in an overbought condition. NYSE is approaching a neutral condition. So this doesn't preclude the market from going higher and breadth expanding, but it does suggest that potentially we are at least in a pause phase, or at some point in time, if the short-term support and resistance levels are not broken, that we could see this continue to work off to the downside in some form of a pause or some form of a move lower that would test short-term support. And watch those short-term support levels. They're going to be important now, especially if they're broken, because that would then suggest that the market got ahead of itself, and potentially we're going to see intermediate-term support levels tested. But if they hold, this market is on fire. It is wanting to go up, and it appears that it still has the gas to do that. Looking at the S&P, the percentage of stocks above the 50 and 200-day moving average, as you can see what happened. This break happened actually on Friday. So you can see that we had a Friday expansion of the number of stocks above the 50-day moving average. 200-day moving average is approaching trend, so that's going to be interesting to see if that's broken as well. And then, of course, in terms of the NASDAQ, you can see this was broken also on Friday's trading, and then we had an expansion in today's trading. And in the NASDAQ, and once again, this internal divergence with the NASDAQ is just really astounding to see that the number of stocks above the 50-day moving average expanded, number of stocks above the 200-day moving average expanded above what was trend. And yet we had a down day in the NASDAQ that day. And then in terms of the Russell, you can see we had a nice break in the 50-day moving average and a really nice break in the 200-day moving average. So the internals have confirmed the breakout moves to the upside. The question is, markets run and pause in all degrees of time. So the question facing us then is, are we going to see some type of a continuation of a pause here, or are we going to see another breakout move? And you can see the 3 to 4 days of rotation that we've been in after breaking out above the 557 level in the spiders and in the Qs. I'm just really going to be very interested in seeing what happens with the Qs going forward with the NASDAQ. The divergence between price and the internals honestly, I don't think I've ever seen that significant of a divergence that I can remember anyway, with shares about $2,100, 2,100 more shares trading higher as opposed to lower in the NASDAQ, and yet we got this pretty significant sell-off on Thursday's trading. So the resolution of that is going to be very interesting to see. Hopefully we'll see how it's going to be resolved in the next day or two's trading. I will say this: if price decides to correspond to what the internals are telling us, the NASDAQ could have a really good significant move to the upside. But watch the lower support levels, because we are in the potential for, having had a really good move to the upside last week, potential for some type of pause or counter trend rotation to the downside. The trend is up. Have a great night, and I will pick this back up for subscribers tomorrow night.